Age of Dogfights World War II. This is a war game of air combat in the Great War. It is not out yet. The publisher asked me if I wanted to take a look at it, if I wanted to make a video for it. It looked awesome, so I definitely wanted to. And so the publisher sent me a prototype. So what you see here today is not necessarily the final product. The game is on Kickstarter now, or will be, or will have been, depending on when you watch this video. But this is not a Kickstarter preview in the sense that I ask for money and then I just cover the game and maybe I say nice things. I don't get paid for my videos, and that's why they are reviews. They're not previews in that sense. So I just say whatever the heck I want in my videos. I like it that way. Age of Dogfights for at least 2 players. Can be played solitaire by a single player controlling both sides at the best of their possibilities. And there are different types of missions, from the classic dogfight, shoot down the opponents, to bomber missions where you're trying to bomb areas, to recon missions where you're trying to take pictures of specific areas. A lot of variety there. The game is played on this board that is made of different sections that go next to each other and that has this peculiar triangular grid, but aren't triangles just conceptual hexes? I'll leave you with that philosophical problem. Then each airplane in the game is represented by a token, such as this one, with a summary of some of the key information about the airplane itself, plus a number that marks its identity, plus you have a stand that indicates the height, the elevation, the level at which the airplane is flying. Levels are between 1 and 4, and so when you change elevation, you simply take a stand with the corresponding level and you insert the token there. Something cool also is that these tokens also indicate when you're going up at the end of a movement, to indicate it will climb by 1 level next turn, or down if you are climbing down 1 level or more next turn. Each airplane so has a token that marks the position and orientation and elevation of the airplane on the board, but then also each player has a board such as this one that is used to keep track of different things about the airplane. Say for example, this German Albatross is number 8, so we use this line of the Albatross board to keep track of how much fuel can still be used by the Albatross to go full throttle. When that is over, you can still try to go full throttle one more time, but it may be dangerous, and then after that you don't go full throttle. And then how much ammo you have. Also what the symbols that you see here in those ammo tracks indicate the type of ammo for the specific type of weapon that you're using. The Albatross only has 2 fixed forward-facing machine guns, so every time that you shoot with the Albatross, you will move that marker down by 1 for each burst, and maybe you spend twice because you're doing a long burst. The Bristol, for example, has 2 different types of weapons. It has a single fixed forward-facing machine gun, and then it has 2 movable, as you can see from that little semicircle there, movable dorsal machine gun, so facing backwards, protecting the 6. And so depending on which one you use to fire, then you will spend the corresponding ammo. When you don't have ammo for a certain weapon, then you don't get to use that weapon. So the game is scenario based. You will choose the scenario that you want to play, set it up and all that, with airplanes on the board, with those boards to keep track of things, and then you get started. The flow of the game is that one player will get to move all of their airplanes, or to activate all of their airplanes, and one airplane moves and then can fire from their ending position at the end of movement. You don't fire during movement, so you may have to maneuver a little bit to find yourself just in the right position at the end of movement. So you move at the end of movement if you can and you want, you fire. Then another airplane of the same player does the same, move and possibly attack, move and possibly attack, and then it goes to the other player to do the same, and we alternate that way. For movement, each airplane has a standard speed, which is indicated both on their board and on the airplane itself, which is the Arabic number that for the Albatross would be 6. Then you will roll a blue die and then modifies the standard speed. For example, this Albatross I'm trying to move now moves by 6. I could have moved by 8. I could have moved by 7, but now it moves by 6. And so I simply move from dot to dot. The Roman number next to the speed is the agility number, which is the number of times that an aircraft can turn during a turn. So we said that I have 6, and suppose I decide to go 1, 2, I spend 1 turn, 3, 4, 5, I spend another turn, 6. I still have 1 turn, but I decide not to use it. And at the end of movement, I can decide if I want to go up or down 1 level, and suppose that I decide to want to go down 1 level. So next turn, that I will replace that stand with a level 4, or level 3, because I'm a level 4. And then suppose after all is said and done, I move here, and then I move here with this one, like so. Now, suppose that at the end of movement, suppose I want to go faster, then I can spend one of those full throttle points indicated here. So instead of the blue die to modify the base speed of the aircraft, I get to roll the green die, which lets me move a lot more, a lot faster. And you have to spend all of the movement points that you get. You don't get to pull the brake in the middle of the sky. So at the end of movement, you may be in a position to fire. It all depends on the position of the enemy, and it all depends, of course, on the weapons that you're using. So, for example, if I am firing with this aircraft here that has those forward machine guns, this would be a legal position because my target is right in front of me and we are at the same level. There are a couple of other things. Suppose that, for example, I am 1 level higher but I am facing down, so that still makes sense, or 1 lower and at the end of movement I'm facing up. The rules for who can shoot whom and where and from what position and elevation and all that seem a little fiddly when you read them in the rule book, but in truth it can be summarized to look at the board. If it makes sense, shoot. Frankly, that's really all that there is. And of course, it may be that actually at the end of movement, it is this aircraft that goes 1, 2, or no, goes, yeah, 1, 2, 3, and now they can shoot with that back. If that's the position at the end of this aircraft, this is the time for this aircraft to shoot. And now they can shoot at that one with their moving dorsal guns. So, depending on where you are, you get to shoot. There are 2 combat tables, or 1 combat table with 2 columns, column A and column B. Column A is a lot better, column B not nearly as much. But depending on where you are, that will decide which column you use. So, for example, ideally, if you are straight behind somebody, that is the perfect position. You get to use column A. The idea is you're both going in the same direction, so you are behind and you have a lot of time to shoot. The target is in front of your guns for a while. If the position seems to be kind of the same, but with this inclination, then you use column B, because of course what it really represents is the aircraft are moving in this direction, so you have a lot shorter span of time to shoot. Distance also not so good. You get column B. You can also shoot at each other as you're going in front, but you cannot, and movement right in front of somebody else, but again, you can go that way. Also, if you're shooting, after you shoot, if your target is in a position where they can shoot back, they get a shot at you right after you resolve your attack. So that would be the case. If I shoot somebody that way on their 6, they have that rear machine gun and they fire at me. Shooting, attacking is pretty simple. Here you have the column. Again, depending on the position of the 2 aircraft, you will know if it's A or B. Then you will roll 2 dice and you will apply possible modifiers. For example, shooting with a double machine gun like the Albatross gives you a +1. That's one of the many possible modifiers. And then you simply cross-reference. It's simply two regular six-sided dice and nothing fancy, very classic. So you know that the average result is going to be around here. You roll the dice, look at the column, cross-reference with the result, and you'll know if nothing happened, if you jammed your guns, and then there will be a procedure to unjam them. If you damage the opponent, or if you simply destroy them. If you destroy them, it's what it is. Out. If you damage them, well, you will determine the damage, but another thing is that a second damage will automatically destroy the aircraft that receives that damage. If you inflict that, again, not a full destruction, but a damage, you roll this die here to determine the type of damage that the aircraft receives. Suppose, for example, oh no, this is the damage that we roll. Here we have a convenient player right here that tells us that the wings have been damaged, speed is reduced by -1. To mark the kind of damage that the aircraft received, you use these tokens here, which are a little weird looking, and I don't know, not a big fan, but they do work. You simply set one like that, like so on it. Suppose, for example, that the damage was that you at the tail, so now the agility, number of turns is reduced by 1, and then you will get this one instead. Oh yeah, but again, despite my misgivings, they fall. I was gonna say they don't fall that much, of course, because I just faulted this one. If you fold them properly, they don't fold even when you use them to mark a change in elevation. So this is in essence the game. Fly around, use your full throttle to roll the green die, shoot, but with very limited ammo, and you continue like this. One player alternates, moves, shoots, the other player alternates, moves, shoots, until one of the players has achieved the objectives of the scenario. Age of Dogfights World War I. This is a game that I put in the same family as other simple, light, streamlined, fast-moving, highly playable, and sandboxy war games such as Wings of Glory or Black Cross Blue Sky, which I haven't played in a long time. It has, well, several things in common with those. One being that it starts very easy with a very simple core idea, and then you can add as many layers as you want. In this video, I just want to show the basics, but there's just so much more stuff that you can do with this game. You can add landscape, such as clouds, for example. You can add the direction of the sun, and which of course blinds a little bit when you're facing the sun, the wind, pilot experience, all sorts of different things that you can add to give more detail to the story, to flesh things out. Again, you have more models there, different scenarios that you can create and design. A lot of variety, which of course would all be perfectly useless if the game wasn't good. Who needs to have different ways of play a piece of trash? But this is not the case. This is good. This is good gameplay. I was a little bit skeptical at the beginning when I read that you had to move all the way before you shot, but of course that is also what you have in a lot of other games, such as Wings of Glory. At the same time, here, if your machine guns are stuck, then you may find yourself having to do some little maneuvers here and there, which may feel a little bit gamey in a sense, and yet not so much, because you still have the speed and agility that comport with what we know about those models historically. And the overall idea just works. You do have the sense of these dogfights, you do have the sense of these airplanes going around in circles, but in a fun way, because of course whoever is going to be able to do that better, more efficiently, and get in the right position is going to place that shot. Whoever is going to be able to use multiple aircrafts in synergy. So as I'm worrying about circling around yours, then there's another one that is coming around, and I have to worry about that one. Then, of course, I'm in the first position to shoot you, but you have the dorsal guns, and that's a whole other problem. So the maneuvering aspect is really fun because it really rewards good gameplay, positioning, maneuvering. That is great. Again, I also wasn't sure about I go, you go. It seems to give too much advantage to one of the two sides. I don't know which one, but it just felt that way. But then it turns out that, yeah, both sides, when you get to move and to shoot at the end of your movement, is good for you and not so good for the opponent unless they get to shoot back. So you don't have that element of apparent randomness that you have, for example, in Wings of Glory. If you play Wings of Glory with somebody who is not experienced, then it's very hard for them to get the airplane to go anywhere near where they want it. So here it's easier to get a new player to play decently, to get a sense of how it goes, because it's so intuitive. Roll the dice and move accordingly. But with all the modifiers, plus other modifiers about airplanes, that some climb slower than others, descend slower than others, have a problem turning left rather than right. So with all those elements, you still have a lot of historical flavor, but everything is pretty intuitive, everything's pretty simple, because you roll the dice, you move according to the physics of the game and to the limitations of your aircraft, and then see if you can shoot according to the limitations and specific things that your airplane does. So what I like is that on one hand, the game really forces you within a system of really hard constraints. You don't get to choose the speed, but you can choose to go a lot faster, but you don't get to choose how faster. You don't get to choose a lot of things, and those machine guns, if only you could turn them a bit, but you can't. But at the same time, you have so many things that you can do, and basically you have a lot of agency within a very strict and limited system, and I like that. I think that makes for good gameplay, because it makes for a lot of interesting decisions and tough dilemmas that feels rewarding to be able to overcome. If you can just go wherever and shoot whatever, then there's no big deal. No satisfaction when you finally are able to align yourself with the enemy and inflict that amazing hit that you don't, because you align yourself perfectly with the enemy and you rolled a 2 and sucks to be you. That is to say, there is an element of luck, of course, because you did do the perfect alignment and you miss, and an opponent just lucky, they are lucky to get in the right position, and they're all at 12 and you go kaput. There is an element of luck right there which may cause rapid, sudden swings of fortune, but to me that makes sense given the theme. You know what you're looking for, and without those crazy moments in which stuff just blows up out of nowhere without any warning, I don't think that the theme would really come across as well as it does. So you have a game that is playable if you can face that element of randomness, which to me is perfectly fine. Actually, it's very welcome. You have an element that does reward good gameplay, with the caveat about the luck, that plays well, that is easy to teach, especially in its basic configuration. Then you can add any layer that you want. Maybe one thing about the production, I'm not crazy about the fact that to change elevation, you have to remove the piece from the board and change the thing, and then like, wait a second, was it this dot or that dot? But in most cases, you remember, okay, it's 2 dots from that airplane, 1 dot from there. But there are the games in which you don't have to worry about that. With Wings of Glory, you add a pack to the stand. With Black Cross Blue Sky, you change the elevation on the base without having to remove the airplane. Just one little thing I wanted to point out in the production that I'm not crazy about. But other than that, the production, even from this prototype, looks very promising, and gameplay is solid and fun. Age of Dogfights World War 1. I enjoyed it playing it. I think it's a really solid war game. Definitely a nice package. And well, I'm curious to see the final product. What I see here is something that I liked very much.